Hey everybody, I'm Ryan SERHANT, and this is Talia McKinney. And if you don't already know her, you're about to. Talia and I have been working side by side since 2016, and she is a total powerhouse, a hustler in the absolute best sense of the word. She works harder than anyone I know. She leads one of the top teams at SERHANT, and she truly does it all. From selling multi-million-dollar penthouses on Central Park to guiding new agents and speaking on stages all around the world. Talia shows up with heart. She's got incredible drive and unmatched expertise. She knows what she's talking about. So you should feel incredibly lucky to be in the same room with her. So give it up for one of the best in the business. Ladies and gentlemen, Talia McKinney.
Talia, it's so good to have you here. Thank you. Yeah, finally. Mike, I love that video because there's so much about your energy that is incredibly infectious. And I mean, you know, like when you read your bio, $1 million listing New York star, SERHANT, your own team, the Talia McKinney team at SERHANT. And I mean, obviously you're mostly New York and Hamptons based, but the range of work that you do, sort of from $250 million up to 32 million penthouses, for people in this audience, it's a mind-blowing journey, because this is not where it all started for you. So I think before we dig deep and get our heels into real estate, tell us about your journey, your sort of career path to real estate.
Yeah, so first, thank you everyone for being here. Paul, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a long time coming from when we first spoke to being here, to delayed flights, to canceled flights, but I'm here, so I'm so excited, and I'm always so grateful for the people who show up, so thank you so much. So I've been in real estate for 10 years. I moved to New York City 17 years ago. I'm from Pennsylvania, from a small town. It's called Lancaster, Pennsylvania. You know, I grew up as a little girl with a single mom with big dreams of always wanting to move to New York City. I graduated college. I've always been an athlete my entire life. So I was always like someone who was like super competitive, super driven. You know, I would set these goals for myself and be like, this is what I want to be someday. But I never, envisioned being where I am now. In terms of real estate, in terms of being a public speaker, in terms of traveling the world and meeting people. So when I moved to New York, I was a hustler. You know, I didn't come from a family that was financially stable to support me in New York, because New York is not cheap. I was living in a basement apartment in New York. I had 3 roommates, and I was just like hustling to try to make ends meet. At the time, I was watching this show called $1 Million Listing New York. And I was in PR, I was working at 2 restaurants, and I was like, I had this table of guests at a restaurant where I was working, and they're like, did you ever think about getting your real estate license? And I was like, well, I watched the show, $1 Million Listing New York, and I know, this guy Ryan on the show, like he has great energy, he's super fun, but I know nothing about real estate. So this guy's like, get your real estate license, come work for me at this company. So I got my real estate license, and I went a different route. He was a commercial owner of a commercial company, and I was just like, commercial's not really for me. I kind of want to go into residential. So it was a journey, and it was a journey of like learning the business. As we all know, real estate is not easy. You have to put in a lot of time. You have to really learn, and I made $7,000 my first year in real estate, which, if anyone knows, in any city, anywhere in the world, that's like no money. So I was still working 3 jobs. I was trying to learn the business. I was trying to get into sales. I was like, I'm watching this show, $1 Million Listing New York, where they're making money every episode, and it's just, it's not that easy. So it's like I started from the bottom. I didn't have the connections, I didn't have people in New York that were like giving me leads. So it was really, working my way, learning the business. And that's why I always just like to talk about like where I came from and where I started, because, I started in a small town, and there's things, certain things that I'm passionate about. Like in this photo, I'm a guide for a blind runner. And those are things, that made the path for where I am now. My mom, my family, you know, doing things that inspire me, like running with Erwin, who's visually cannot see, he's blind. So those are things that I'm super passionate about. And that is, you know, which we'll talk more about, the transition of getting to working with Ryan and to where I am now.
Talk about manifestation.
Yes.
So, okay, so you've been through this journey. For anybody who might not know, undoubtedly it's a big thing. And I want to get into personal branding later, because I think what Ryan and you both have done is incredible. And I myself am one of these people. It's like, I will not work for a brand. I will not be a brand ambassador unless I've got the company culture and the values like running through my veins. So how did SERHANT become what it is today, and when did you enter?
Yeah. If it was only this easy,
Yeah.
just entering, it was not. So this was a journey in itself. So I was working at a smaller boutique company, and like I said, you know, I made $7,000 my first year in real estate, and I was like, that show is not true. Ryan on that show, you know, you do not make money every episode. It's really hard. So I hustled, and I kind of connected with this guy at the smaller company that I was at, and he put me on a sale listing, and it was a smaller sale in New York City. It was a studio apartment, and it was for sale for $275,000. And again, in New York, that's, you know, it's a minimal amount of money. But I was like, oh, I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I've made it. I have this like listing. It's $275,000. This was like my baby. It was a studio. It was like 300 square feet. It was in a walk-up apartment, but I sold that. It took about a year, and I was like, I've made it in New York. You know, I'm in sales. I sold a property that's $275,000. I was like, that guy, you know what? I'm really good at this. I need to reach out to this guy, Ryan SERHANT, because I need to work with him. I'm watching the show, you know, I'm getting inspired by him. And so I start reaching out to Ryan SERHANT, and does everyone know who Ryan is? For those of you who don't, he's, okay, maybe not everyone does. I'm sure everyone pretty much does. But yeah, so Ryan is the CEO of SERHANT. He's on the show $1 Million Listing New York on Bravo TV. We have a Netflix show, Owning Manhattan. He's an author, he's a CEO, you know, he's a big personality. So I was like, I want to work with that guy. So I start emailing him, I start reaching out to him. Hear nothing back. 1 month goes by, 2 months goes by, 6 months goes by, an entire year of me trying to follow up with this guy, getting zero response, and I finally get an email back from him a year later, and it's like, thanks for reaching out, but you know, we're not looking for anyone to join the company, best of luck. And I was like, but I just sold a $275,000 studio. I'm amazing. I followed up with you for a year. Like, no. I'm gonna be working with this guy. So I started emailing him again, you know, 13th month, 14th month, kept following up with him, zero response. I used to say I stalked him a bit. Now I like to say pursued instead of stalking, but I'd kind of like show up at little events that he was having, you know, try to get in front of him, compliment him on listings that he sold, on things that he was doing. If anyone knows Ryan, he loves to be complimented. So, you know, I was trying to get in with him, and he was like, you know, I don't really know who you are. It just kind of like passed me off. So 2 years went by. In 2016, I got an email back from him saying that they were looking for someone to join his team in Brooklyn. And I was like, I have no clue where Brooklyn is. I knew nothing about Brooklyn real estate, but I was like, I'm gonna be working with this guy. I went in for the interview. I could make this a really long story, but basically, I went into the interview. They were like, you know, do you have connections with people who are buying real estate? Do you have knowledge of Brooklyn? Do you have the sales experience? And I was just very authentic to who I was. I was like, no, I don't, but like, I will be the hardest working person on this team. No, I don't have Brooklyn knowledge, but I will learn this, you know, I will learn this market better than anyone. So they're like, I guess just meet with Ryan tomorrow. Like, I don't even know. They were just kind of like, his assistant was like, whatever. So I met with Ryan the next day. The interview lasted about an hour, and it was so cool because Ryan didn't like grill me on my knowledge of sales. He didn't grill me on like who I knew, who I was connected with, like where my family was from. He was more like, you know, what can you do for the company? Like, how will you meet people? Like, what is your why? Like he just really wanted to get to know me as a person. And if anyone sees Ryan on TV, like he's really a people person and he knows when someone's going to be good at sales. And so the interview went great. And Ryan was like, you know, you've been stalking me for 2 years. Like, you know, what took you so long to getting here? I was like, if you would have sent me back an email. But he sat back in his chair and he said, I'd love for you to be on the team. And I sat back in my chair and I said, I'll need to think about it. And that was 8 years ago, and now we've been working together ever since.
Oh my God, I love that story, yeah. Persistence. But you know what, it's more than persistence. It's chemistry, it's personality, and it will take you a long way. And you know, your journey, having crossed other sectors and done other jobs and started from the bottom up, and obviously the way that you deal with people and you connect with people is very personable. Yeah. And I think sometimes that carries more weight than experience.
Exactly.
So, because we use the word persistence, and I know how successful you are as a duo, Ryan talks a lot about failure as well.
Yes.
And in Cyprus, we're not very good at accepting failure, and we've got a bit of a blame society going on. So, you know, if something's gone wrong, he didn't. And I find it very admirable when people persist despite the pitfalls. And I know that you're a mentor and a coach as well, so I'd just love to hear your take on the challenges once you secured the position and failures along the way.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's part of it is being persistent. Part of it is learning is learning from the failures. And part of it, like, we have a culture in New York where we really don't discuss failures, but we really don't talk about the wins either. Like, you know, I have so many things along my journey, and it's just like New York moves so quickly that I like to tell my team, like, stop and like really celebrate the wins as well. Like, not only are we learning from the failures and we're learning from things that like didn't happen, but like stop and really, like, for me, I'm like, you know, I started as a rental agent. I made $7,000 my first year. My first sale was $275,000. Now I have a top team. I've been working with Ryan. Like, I'm a mentor. I'm a coach. Like, I need to, like, you know, so that's why I like to tell people, like, just take a moment, like, live in that moment and like be grateful for where you are. Like, I never would have imagined sitting in front of this audience in Cyprus, meeting Paul, meeting you, like sitting on the stage. So to get back to your point, you know, just learning from the things that you failed from, because it can make you a stronger person. Like, you know, I moved to New York. I had to hustle to get to where I am today. Like I said, I was not handed anything. I, you know, don't have the connections with the developers and with people who are buying $1 million apartments. It's all about being authentic and being yourself and being personable and following up and being persistent. That's like the whole package, and that's why I appreciate so much, you know, having a mentor like Ryan, because like you said, I was sitting in that interview, and while I didn't have the stats and I didn't have the sales experience, it's more of like who you are as a human and who you are, you know, as a salesperson and what you can do for people. And I think that goes way further, which we'll get into, like personal branding and being authentic. But I think that goes so much further than just saying, you know, I have the sales, I have the numbers, I'm this, you know, person who just like grinds out the business. It's like the full package.
And let's go to this then. So, do you, because I mean, most of us particularly in Limassol, we do deal with high net worth individuals, ultra high net worth individuals at times, but obviously not on the scale that you have. So you find that the authenticity carries through across the segment of society? Does it make a difference? Do you have to adjust? Do you find that the customers expect you to adjust?
I mean, that's a good question. So I like to say, you know, when I'm doing these speeches, or I'm doing, you know, coaching, like people are like, you know, if I feel comfortable showing up in sweatpants and a hoodie, you know, is that professional? Like, obviously you want to be professional and you want to present yourself the way that you should to, you know, to a client. But I also think, you know, like when I got into the business, and in New York, there's like different neighborhoods. And a lot of people think like to work on the Upper East Side, you have to, you know, dress a certain way. To, you know, to work in Soho, you have to dress a certain way. And that's sort of what I felt when I started in the business. I'm like, for some reason, I was like, I envisioned this like real estate agent that had to wear like a blazer, a pantsuit, have Louboutin heels on, and a Chanel bag. And I'm like, that is great for some people. That's a lovely outfit. I love it. But is it me? It's just not me. Like, I like to, you know, wear colors, and I like to, you know, there's a certain way to represent yourself that you're feeling comfortable in your own skin. So I think, you know, as long as you're professional and you carry yourself with confidence and you know what you're talking about, that goes way further. And that is why someone's going to want to work with you.
We had a very interesting panel yesterday about women in leadership, women empowered in leadership. And it's an annoying question because we shouldn't have to ask it, because that kind of like almost defeats the whole purpose. But I am fascinated because you are a woman in a sector where traditionally, I can remember when I was at Foxtons in London, I can remember going to viewings and being scared that I was on my own, that I had to park in some street in London and disappear into an apartment with God knows who. Has that ever been an issue for you? Have you ever felt that, not only in the way that you carry yourself and dress, but your confidence in the sector, has it ever been questioned?
Yeah. Oh, wow, this is so much clearer. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I haven't. Is this okay? Yeah, it's okay. I was like, I feel like it's too loud now. Yeah, so I think it's like carrying yourself with confidence. To answer your question, no, I have not felt that way. Thankfully, knock on wood. But yeah, I think it's just you know, being authentic to who you are and feeling the comfortability and having the confidence. Like with this property that I sold recently for $31.5 million. Thank you. So that's all part of my journey of the $275,000 listing to $31.5 million, which, you know, again, it's just the journey of where I started. And yeah, so presenting to this, you know, this seller as who I am, this is who I am, like take it or leave it, sort of. If you like it, that's why you want to work with me. If you want to work with a male or someone else, or someone younger or someone older or taller or short, you know, it's just being confident, like knowing like I, you know, crushed that interview, I crushed that listing pitch, like I'm the right person for you. And then if you don't get it, it's like, you know, on to the next thing.
Okay, so because authenticity keeps coming up and it's very obvious, I think it oozes out of every orifice, I just want to run through a few words that are used to describe you and that are actually quite profoundly obvious when someone follows you on Instagram, because it's there, it's in the energy, it's in your videos. Sincerity, patience, commitment, connection, relationships, results, referrals, credibility, trust, energy, passion, and a dynamic presence.
Wow, thank you. I love those.
Yeah. So it seems to me, and of course you need to tell us, I would imagine you don't have to consciously package that because it is who you are. But for people in this room, because obviously in real estate, in Cyprus particularly, we are now entering that era of people becoming a brand ambassador for wherever they're working, but also becoming influencers in their own right, because having that connection with whoever's watching will help build the trust and credibility to sell the properties. So I'm very interested in understanding whether it's naturally, organically done or deliberately done, your strategy, because I can see some pillars at play in your feed. Is there something that you're working on to create this personal brand, or has it just come incredibly easy for you?
I mean, I would say it's definitely did not start easy. And personal branding is so important in sales and in real estate because, you know, the more people get to know who you are, the more people see you on social media, the more people get to know your face, the more credibility you have, the more they realize, you know, when you're out and about in the neighborhood, in the community, they're like, oh, I remember Talia because I saw her on stories on Instagram, or I saw her on YouTube, or I saw her on LinkedIn. And I think, you know, when I started doing social media, I was kind of like, it felt uncomfortable. It feels weird at first. And everyone's like, it feels weird, so they just stop, which is not what you want to do. The more you do it, the more consistent you are with your Instagram stories, with your TikTok videos, with your posts on LinkedIn. And you can do them, the same thing and just, use the same videos, use the same content on all the platforms. I think the worst thing you can do is just be like, I'm uncomfortable with it, like I don't want to do it. Like it goes such a long way when I'm going to a listing pitch and, I'm going in there with my marketing booklet and ready to talk about who I am, and they're already like, well, we already know who you are because we saw, on Instagram that you were on a run volunteering, running with a blind runner this morning. And this afternoon you had lunch at this place and you tagged that lunch spot, and then you went to the office, and then you went to a listing pitch, and then you went to, they already know those things. So it builds credibility already for who you are and what you're doing. So I think when people are like, it just makes me feel uncomfortable, doing more of it, challenging yourself to do like 1 or 2 stories a day. When I speak and do keynotes, I'm like, this is a challenge for everyone in the audience, is to pick a platform, if it's TikTok, if it's Instagram, if it's Facebook, and just post 2 stories a day for 7 days, 1 personal, 1 business, and just keep with that for 7 days. And the more you do it, the more, and it's your face in front of it. It's not like a property tour. It's not like, a just listed photo. It's a personal video where you're like, hey, I'm going into the office today. I have 2 listing pitches and a closing. Just the more you talk, the more you're putting yourself out there, the more comfortable you will get, and the more engagement you will get, the more followers, the more insight, the more leads, the more referrals. Like it begins, it builds, and you will get leads through that platform.
How do you funnel it? I mean, what's your call to action normally on social media? Do you have a marketing team for the Talia team, or is it the SERHANT
I pretty much do it all myself.
Oh my goodness.
So if you guys follow me on Instagram, which you should because it's fun. Yes. Yes, when you have Wi-Fi, you can follow me. But no, and follow people and do the same things that they're doing. Like I said, I don't overthink it. Like I think that's the worst thing you can do is like, oh my gosh, I'm not like wearing the outfit I want to be wearing today, or oh, my hair's not done. Like people want to see the real, authentic you. They want to see what you're doing on a day-to-day. They want to see that you're like out in the business, that you're not just, that's the other thing. Like I have Anns, like they want to know what you like to do besides real estate. Like for me, I love to volunteer. I love to travel. I love to work out. Like those are things that I have a connect with people, and they're like, wow, she's, a human that does other things besides just real estate. So overthinking, like just post it. If you're like, should I be posting, my hair's messy and I just got done with a workout, post it. Like people like to see the authenticity and they like to see the real you.
I noticed that about your grid. It's nice because there's all these different pillars.
You're like, you look a mess in one, you look great in one, I'm speaking in one. So yeah, I just don't overthink it.
And obviously, because I want to talk more about you, but I think for the audience, because you're so much more than just the personality, you obviously have this plethora of information and knowledge now on the real estate sector. You're a TED speaker, you're invited on shows, you're in the Real Deal and Rob Report. So in terms of the sector, and I know that for the US, things are very different, but can you just give us some insights on sort of 2025, where you think things are now and where you think they're heading based on the last panel?
Yeah, first, for one, just to go back to the social media thing, and I think a lot of people, they look at SERHANT and working with Ryan, and they're like, well, you have, a SERHANT brand, and you have Ryan. Like, I don't think people overthink how many followers you have, and like, what's the point of posting on social media if I have 5 followers? The more the more you're posting, the more engagement you get, and that's important to those 5 people who are following you, or those 20 people. Like, you don't need millions of followers. I don't have millions of followers, but the people that I have that like watch my content, they appreciate it and they're following it for a reason. And that, like, when you're going to these listing pitches, at least in New York City, like 99% of the time, they're not even looking at our business website. They're going to Instagram to check to see like who I am, what I enjoy doing, and they want to feel that like connection besides real estate.
I suppose you've kind of like cut half of the work out for them. So if somebody's
Exactly.
looking for a property or looking to invest, they know that if it's on your platform, Talia's already given it the seal of approval. So I'm done with all the calls and the listings and the emails. She'll tell me what to do, which is best. And that's the power of the personal brand, I guess.
And yeah, you don't want someone going to your page and being like, you know, oh, they have 2 posts. Are they in real estate? Are they a hair model? Are they, you know, like you want them to know you're in real estate, but that you have other likes.
And your passion.
And your passions, right.
Have you ever rejected listings because they don't speak to you? Have you been allowed to?
I would be allowed to, but I actually never have, which is interesting. I'd be interested to hear if other people have, but yeah, I definitely would if it's just not
on par with your...
And that's the thing too. I do all price points still. I do, you know, I do rentals, I do sales. Like I'm a yes girl. I like to help people. Business is business. I do have a team, but I like to, you know, yes, I sold a $31.5 million property. If there was a $275,000 property in New York, which there probably isn't, I would still take that on as well. So.
And on that note, since there is nothing on 275, tell us a little bit about the market.
Yes, about the market. Yeah, so 2025, you know, it started out slower, which we were prepared for because of an election year. So I think in New York, like everyone was a bit hesitant with the uncertainty, you know, either way you were going with the election. But it's very busy now, which is interesting because, you know, I have conversations with Ryan like on the daily, like literally we were up talking with the time difference on his, you know, 10 p.m. time. I was talking to him on my way here this morning because he wakes up every morning at 4 a.m. But just talking about the market, and I think for me it's interesting because again, if you know me or if you follow me on social, I do have a very positive outlook on things, and I do think obviously you have to be realistic with the market. And, you know, other people I talk to at our company, they're like, you know, the buyers are pulling out of deals. The sellers don't want to sell. They're taking their things off the market. But I think if you are knowledgeable and honest, but are positive about where your clients should be, like where your buyers should be submitting offers, if it makes sense, you know, in terms of the market and giving them that information, like you can still do a lot of business in a market where people are like, there's the uncertainty and we're not really sure where it's going.
We're the masters of that here in Cyprus. All we do is we jump from one crisis to another. So it's like every time we get back on our feet, it's like someone slaps us in the face, geopolitics.
Yeah.
It's a constant mess, but you're so right that there's always an opportunity in the chaos.
Yeah, it's like if it's the seller, you know, being able to negotiate more, the buyers now, because, you know, the sellers are like, well, we need to sell. It's then the time for the buyers to be able to submit, you know, lower offers and get a better deal. Yeah. So it was interesting. I was talking with Ryan and he's like, so many people said their buyers are like freaking out and pulling from contracts and doing, you know, just like doing like these, like contracts are taking forever to get signed. And I'm like, I feel like everything's great. So let's keep it that way and stay positive. But it is just interesting to see, you know, different markets and different people in New York City market.
So, and you're in the Hamptons as well.
Yes.
Obviously you're in Cyprus today.
Yes, I am.
I didn't want to ask too many questions and I wasn't going to bring up the election, but is there any scope for expanding, I mean, for you particularly in your team, or are you just going to stay localized to New York and the Hamptons?
I mean, someone was asking if we're coming to, I would love to come sell in Cyprus. So if anyone wants me on their team, yay! I'll take it. Yeah. I mean, in terms of Ryan is always in his mind wanting to expand. I think the great thing about him and being the CEO now at SERHANT is someone actually has to like pull the reins on him and say like, slow down. You know, we can't grow too quickly because everyone wants Ryan in every city in the United States, in the, you know, all over the world. Like he, you know, is getting emails constantly of people wanting him to be places. And as much as he does want to be, it's like he wants to make sure everyone is taken care of within the company. The agents are taken care of, his clients are taken care of without like losing track of why he started his own brokerage in the first place.
It's a fine line, isn't it? To lose touch with your why because you're so busy trying to please everybody. You have to know the boundaries.
Yes.
And how big is your team?
So I have a team. I have 7 agents and an assistant and myself.
And then the marketing is all handed to the umbrella?
Yeah, the market's pretty much handed to the umbrella of my assistant some SERHANT, we have like SERHANT marketing that helps as well. But on that note of like how Ryan got to where he was, which is interesting because we were previously at another company, and Ryan, you know, he has a very, you know,
good haircut.
Yeah, good haircut, great hair. Yes, we know that. But like his mind just is always going, and he always wants to be doing more. So it's just interesting when I was with him at the other company, and he was, you know, discussing about making a move to another company. He interviewed like everywhere in New York. Of course, everyone wanted him to come, but like you were saying, it didn't align with what he wanted in terms of marketing, in terms of like other companies having the red tape and not letting him do what he wanted to do. So again, that's just like the great thing about Ryan Serhant, is that he had this vision. He really wanted to do marketing. He really wanted to do more video content, and that is what sells now. Like, people love the video content. Like, everyone needs to be doing that for their marketing, for their listings, for their social media. Like, people want to see you on video. They want to see your properties on video. And no other company did that in New York. So he's like, got to start my own.
Yeah, I think it's huge. It's such a fascinating topic, and I mean, obviously, it's quite on point now because everyone's discussing it on, you know, Steve Bartlett on podcasts, right. Brilliant books that are out now. But there's that danger zone of establishing a brand and then making sure that it can sustain the quality and the popularity when the brand ambassador is no longer there. And I think that's something that's brilliant about your Talia team at SERHANT.
Yes.
Not saying that you're going anywhere, but you have established yourself as well in your own right, which I think is something that we can all take away from that.
Yeah.
And because we're talking a lot about people and the energy that you put into your work, I do want to look a little bit about at giving service.
Yes.
Because you are a mentor and a coach, and you do voluntary work. So you're obviously very keen to give back. So I'd like to just understand a little bit more about community and company culture and how you weave all of that with your private and your career.
Yeah. So I love my job, you know, but I think it's so important for us in sales and in real estate to have ands and things that you enjoy doing outside of real estate. So Ryan has always said, you know, like when I started in the business and I was like, you know, I want things to happen fast. I want to be selling these, you know, at the time I was like, I want to sell something for $1 million. Like, that was my goal. And he's like, slow down, it'll happen, you know, but also don't lose track of like who you are as a human. Because like I was putting so much time into real estate, and I was like, you know, working all the time, trying to network, trying to meet different people. And I felt like I was getting burnt out. So he established this, like, you know, like, obviously, what are your whys, but also like have 3 ands, which are 3 things that you really are passionate about and enjoy doing. So like I said, like, I love working out, I run marathons, I do triathlons, like that is a huge passion for me. And then also, as I said, I run as a guide for a blind runner where we run tethered together. We've done a few marathons together. His name is Erwin. He's, you know, just like someone that's become a great friend, someone who became a lot faster in running since he started running with me. So that's like something that I'm super proud of. And I also like just traveling and giving back is something that it's always been a passion of mine. I've traveled to over 45 countries. I've volunteered in different orphanages. This is an orphanage in Bali that I volunteered at. And just those are things that, you know, make you stand out from just being a real estate and just posting on your social media that, like, you know, you're just listed, you're just sold, what are interest rates? What are, you know, that's another way that people can connect with you and say, you know, I want to work with Talia because she is a person who is a human and it's not all real estate based. So I always like to say to people, you know, what are your ands? If you are, you know, if you love dogs, if you love soccer and you join a soccer club, if you are into cars, like, do something besides real estate that's a passion, and that's a great way to network and meet people too. The $31.5 million property I sold, I met that guy through a running club.
Wow.
So just like, you know, doing
all
other
of us
things.
running tomorrow.
Yes. But it's not, you know, that's something I love, but it's, you know, whatever you love doing. Like, don't think you have to be fully like real estate, that's all I can talk about. That's all my clients want to know. Like, they want to know that you enjoy other things and have passions.
I think it's beautiful that you have that relationship with Ryan. I mean, how often does somebody come and discuss your whys with you.
Yes. But then when I'm also doing it, he's like, why aren't you picking up the phone? And I'm like, I'm running with a blind runner, so I can't answer. But
what about because I know you're married. Was that recent? Because I saw a post, it's quite recent.
2 years ago.
Oh.
But I love my wedding photos, so I posted my 2.5-year anniversary.
How's that? So how do you balance that relationship? Because obviously
if my husband was here, that's one thing.
He'd be like me.
But it is tough. But there's a balance. I spend many date nights on the laptop, going through emails and checking in on deals. But I think, having my husband who is super supportive and understands that I have a slight addiction to work, but I do try to, shut off and focus on that, because obviously that's something of importance. But I think obviously, if you have kids, if you're married, if you have other things, it's just about the balance and, having someone who supports both.
But it helps, doesn't it, if you're doing something you absolutely love?
I absolutely love it, yes.
What's next for Talia then?
What's next? Maybe joining a team in Cyprus for real estate. Paul says it's growing so quickly here. You guys might need me. I do love to travel and speak to people. I do feel, that's something that I'm super passionate about. I love doing that. I do love mentoring my team, and Ryan and I have some things in the works in terms of speaking and growth. So. If you guys have questions, or I'm always just happy to give back. And I'm always just like, it's just so crazy how far I've come. And so I'm always just so grateful for that.
Well, I want to wrap that up on that statement, because I'm personally in absolute awe of your journey. And, we do live on a very small island where there's a lot of private companies, a lot of family-owned companies. So when you haven't been handed everything on a silver platter and you've had to work your way up and you've had to sort of hustle and persist, it's something extremely admirable. And it's been an absolute pleasure and an honor for us to have you here with us. Thank you so much for your time. Everybody give it up for Talia.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.